According to the 2016 study, as revealed, adults who stutter have reduced regional cerebral blood flow in the upper frontal gyrus and Broca'S area. If that were the case, then any person who stutters would be doomed to stutter forever. So, according to these studies, stuttering is an innate pathology that exists with you from birth and will be with you until death. What do you think? Is it true or not? Let's consider this situation together, if it were true. That is, it turns out that in principle nothing can be done about this. It turns out that a person who stutters is born with an innate pathology they cannot change. Their stuttering and speech blocks are attributed to reduced blood flow in the upper frontal gyrus and Broca'S area. This suggests that attempts to eliminate stuttering are futile, as the reduced blood flow in these areas is blamed for their speech issues. This means that any attempts to get rid of stuttering are in vain. No matter what we do, we will always stutter. I speak fluently at home with Vasya, but when my boss Petya calls and says I'm late, I start to stutter. My blood flow was normal initially. What do we see? For example, I'm talking to Vasya at home, and I'm speaking absolutely perfectly fine, not stuttering at all, and expressing all the emotions I want to convey. Then, suddenly you see, I get a call from Petya, my boss, who says something like, "Hey, you're indeed late for work." Suddenly, I actually start to stutter. So, according to these studies, it seems that my regional cerebral blood flow wasn't reduced at first. It was normal. While talking to Vasya about something, he suddenly started to stutter out of nowhere. Okay, let's say that's true. But then when talking to Petya, if the blood flow has decreased, every word should come out with a speech block. In every word there can be 2, 3, or even more speech blocks. And you can't do anything about it, well, because it has decreased, so what? What do you do about it? Nothing. But the picture is such that a person who stutters doesn't stutter on every word. He stutters on complex words, but he doesn't stutter on easy words. So it turns out that the regional cerebral blood flow doesn't decrease on easy words, but suddenly decreases on complex ones. That's exactly why you give in. What is the situation really like? Stuttering. It's not an innate pathology. It's not a physiological problem in the cerebral cortex. It doesn't happen because of supposedly reduced regional cerebral blood flow, whatever you want to call it, in the upper frontal gyrus and Broca'S area. No. Stuttering is an incorrect speech skill that you trigger on your own. You independently cultivate it, watering it like a plant so it can grow. This goes back to childhood. So, in childhood, if something doesn't work out for you, certain blocks form, or rather, you form them yourself. No one can take your speech apparatus and do it for you. You have to deal with it in life. Then you need to find a way to make it accessible for yourself. This is our area of responsibility. And again, if we think everything is fine, it simply projects right here onto the speech apparatus. Speech is a skill. As we've gotten used to using it, that's how it will be used by us everywhere. If stuttering were a congenital pathology that occurred due to reduced cerebral regional blood flow, then we would be stupefied by every condition. Moreover, if we didn't know what could be done about it, we wouldn't have been able to maintain very good positive dynamics for a long time. After severe struggles, after years of stuttering experiences, like I had, like other students had, like many people have. I won't voice the channels now. There are many videos before and after where people initially spoke very badly, were stupefied, and then, well, let's do it one-on-one. For example, 1-on-2, meaning yes, yes, like over the phone, even after 3 days, yes, after a week, they were speaking almost without any stuttering. Yes, there were times when the speech rate was reduced, but there were also times when it wasn't reduced. Somewhere, people felt a certain comfort, convenience, and a natural, normal state just by conveying information. First of all, it's about your thinking, because how you think is how you will exist. Our brain can't even move a finger without us running that program. Even when we've been sitting for a while and it's uncomfortable, we start to change our position. We don't just change it randomly. We do it purposefully because we know we've been sitting too long. So we might need to stretch or scratch ourselves. The impulse always comes from the brain, from consciousness, as to any tool. And the speech apparatus is just one of those tools. We have hands, we have legs. All of these are tools for our existence. The impulse triggers the action, no other way around it. And no reduced regional cerebral blood flow in the frontal lobe or anywhere else can affect whether that impulse gets through. There are situations where people, even those who stutter, can move a lot, especially in certain contexts, like with their mom, dad, friends, or at work. They can speak very freely and express themselves fully, feeling 100% freedom. They can be concise or express themselves however they want, without limitations. So there are no limitations, right? Yes, there may be few of these situations, but even their presence proves the fact that stuttering is primarily triggered by a lack of confidence. So there's this intuition that something isn't going to work out for you, right? There are complex words like a complicated situation where you need to say something quickly, a stressful situation, and so on. And you trigger these processes yourself. You start by inserting the stutters yourself, and then from those stutters, you begin to create a speech block on your own. No one forces you to create a speech block. No one can just take your speech apparatus and say, "Stop, wait, let's do this here." This is your area of responsibility. This is zone for a normal person. It's not just his area of responsibility. This is his comfort zone. How he got used to it here. He will do it the way it's comfortable for him, the way it's convenient for him here. He doesn't care that others can't influence this process in any way. And what about people who stutter and those who speak normally? Their experience shows you can learn to speak without stuttering. Trust your intuition. So the experience of these people suggests that you can learn to speak without stuttering, and blood flow has nothing to do with it. First and foremost, you should rely on your own intuition. If you understand that, for example, with some people you can speak absolutely without stuttering, smoothly, conveniently, comfortably, easily, without even thinking about how to control the speech apparatus, not control the speech apparatus, then this only means that there is no congenital pathology. So you are simply experiencing confidence, and on that wave you can move normally, think normally, and do things normally. Because once again, I'll repeat that things don't just happen for no reason. So every movement we make is driven by a specific impulse. What does speech represent? Speech is, in fact, a sequence of impulses that come from our cerebral cortex. That is, we set ourselves up in a certain way. We believe that we will speak smoothly, well, freely, naturally, and comfortably. And we can do it. But if we think in our heads, "Oh my goodness, what if it doesn't work out?" and we end up stuttering, making strange and unusual sounds, or mumbling, then that's probably how it will turn out. Or we might use various techniques to visually achieve more or less fluent speech, but the fear will still remain in our heads. So, it's clear that this isn't really a way to get rid of stuttering. It's just a deal where we ask ourselves who was in that group and whether such a pattern really exists. Even if it does, How can it affect your own development? And here's the main question. You know, friends, why are there certain situations where you don't stutter at all? Whether it's short words or if you're speaking in a slow manner like this, you're not going to stutter, right? So where does this reduced cerebral regional blood flow in Broca'S area go then? So it kind of dissolves without completely dropping into nonsense when you can speak. One word at a time. For example, I look at a picture. I'm at home. I see a light bulb, and you won't stutter. You can set yourself up this way even with different people. Yes, it's clear that this will be abnormal in society, right? People will interpret it as, dude, why are you talking like that? But at the same time, you won't experience speech blocks while speaking, one word at a time. This significantly reduces the chances of stuttering because we initially fall into a tight spot, and then we start to expect that tightness to form. It doesn't matter where it happens, but we create it ourselves. We push against it, and we end up causing ourselves to stutter. We've been doing this constantly for many years, and it becomes a skill, a well-formed model of how we react in stressful situations. We can even say to ourselves that something might not work out, and we just don't know how to deal with it. What should we do specifically? What are the steps to take to get rid of it? Maybe not 100%, but 90 or 95%. But again, there are cases where you can not even think about speech 100%. So it's about what to say and how to say it. So the main question that arises for a person is actually the topic of the conversation. That's it. That can happen too, and that's okay. In short, you can talk about this topic for a long time. In general, you can tell how I feel about this topic. I don't think that stuttering is a congenital pathology. I don't think she's there. It's caused by reduced regional cerebral blood flow in the upper frontal gyri in Broca'S area. I have certain evidence for this. In every situation, we don't stutter, and it mostly depends on our mood, whether we feel confident or not. Why is it that we don't stutter at home? Because essentially, we can shout at any volume, we can express ourselves very vividly at home, and we won't stutter. We won't be afraid. We won't have that feeling of uncertainty like, oh man, will it work out or not? And we start to replace things. We begin to get scared, to hide, to bury our heads in the sand, trying to twist and turn so that we ourselves or someone else doesn't see our speech block. Speech blocks mostly occur when someone is looking at us, evaluating us, watching us, and we don't know what to do with our tension, but we need to convey something, and we tense up ourselves, and we always control the intensity of that tension ourselves. So if we don't succeed, for example, we tensed up a bit, but it didn't work out. It's still the same super, right? We can push harder to squeeze it out. That's why there is such an expression as squeezing out words. Squeeze them out, just take them, and that's it. We endeavor to push through, but indeed the force of that pushing is something we control ourselves because no one is forcing us. He says yes, yes, yes. We control thoroughly and completely the extent of our stuttering, the scope of our stuttering, and we manage it as if it's an automatic reflex. It's already a well-formed skill that we've developed over time. We can regulate and scale this. There is no innate pathology here, let alone anything related to reduced regional cerebral blood flow. This is absolutely and completely all wrong. It's all unfounded. It's just, how does it happen? It's illogical. I've written to you trying to describe the things that I basically feel because I have a certain degree of stuttering, because I know what it's like. I know that you can fight this. I know that you can't eliminate stuttering, but you can reach a level where you stumble minimally. You can still speak easily. You stay on the conversation or your own narrative. You stumbled minimally, but it was comfortable for you, and at the same time you didn't lose track of the conversation or your own narrative. And you weren't bothered by your own. These are such small, tiny mistakes, and you could speak like that to any audience in different situations. That's cool, that's awesome, that's the best, that's a really good parallel. So, let's summarize. I hope that this video was able to at least get the ball rolling. I will elaborate on this topic, and how I personally feel about it. I provided several examples and arguments in favor of the idea that stuttering is not a fabricated pathology. And even more so, it doesn't happen because of the snow blood flow, regional cerebral blood flow, and this is a skill that can and should be developed. It's a skill that, in principle, we don't get from orders. It's something acquired, but it's really well ingrained in our memory, very well established, even at an unconscious level. So when we stutter, since childhood, we stutter more than once a year. We do this most likely every day. Either someone goes silent every other day, or Santan might be doing it on purpose as part of the program. He can stutter, not just once a day, but 100, 200, or even 1,000 times a day. If there's much talk, if he is embarrassed about stuttering, he is not shy. This is supported. Can you imagine the avalanche, let's say, of negative stuttering experiences a person accumulates over a period of 5 years, conditionally, until they're 20, 25, or even 30 years old? It's just a massive amount, a very well-formed stuttering skill. It's a whole experience of a person that keeps you in fear, that makes you afraid, which in fact gives rise to such intuition in certain situations, that you might not be able to do something in principle. And in many situations you can really see how it might not work out for you. And before you say something, you're already visualizing how you might stutter. When I stutter, well, then I just either use fewer golden words, or I replace words, or I use certain crutches in order not to show their stuttering. So what a stutterer does is they always try to hide. Most stuttering people, they try to hide their stuttering. So they know that they, in a way, have this problem, but in reality they have this skill. Yeah, we really possess it, because despite the fact that they developed it themselves, they started acting on it. Basically, they catch the blocks, resist them, and then turn them into speech stutters. They possess this skill. And so that's the picture we get. The thing is, speech is a skill. People who stutter have solidified this skill on their own. This skill doesn't come about any other way. So no one is going to try to impose this skill on them. They did it all themselves. They brought themselves to this state that they are experiencing at this very moment. At this moment, on this day, month, quarter, year. It's their area of responsibility. First of all, to get rid of it properly and effectively. I'm not saying that some types claim to get rid of stuttering 100%. At most, they leave some pauses here and there, but you hardly pay any attention to them, while in some cases you really do notice those pauses. Many people's experiences show you can overcome stuttering. This was done consciously, you worked on it, faced situations, and began speaking normally. And then let's say I lost them. Yes, I did this consciously, meaning it didn't just happen after hypnosis. We really worked on it. You went through a bunch of situations, and you started speaking normally, freely, and easily. There. You were partly convinced that stuttering is a disease, and so on. Such situations just show that, in principle, it's possible. If it's possible for one person, then it means it's possible, and with other people and interactions. So it just remains to gradually scale it up, to increase the overall volume and impact. This volume of your life, your speech, or else just put your hands down and simply give up altogether. To say that this is a disease, and no one will be able to do anything. I'm doomed. You want to be doomed, but I don't. I think I'll stick to a different mindset. I tend to sympathize more with other ideas. I guess I'll consider that speech is from taxes, and what do you think about that? You only use 6 subscriptions, and I think about how not to convey certain information, especially if I stumble over my words. Yes, I'm not taking it to the extreme, meaning the thought that if I stumble, then I'll get stuck. Because of trying and all, it's uncomfortable, but I don't lose the thread of the narrative. So, it's comfortable for me to speak this way, I feel good, I'm satisfied with it, so this is my skill. Yeah, this is my level that I've managed to reach without much training. So, I trained for a maximum, 2-3 weeks. I was learning there, doing something at home. Then, it was just an analysis. There, it's like some comparison of cause and effect in connection, and not in every dialogue. I just felt that he made a mistake here and I need to correct it. It happened because it's all a relatively easy process, so ideally you can learn it in no more than 2, 3, or 4 weeks. That's exactly it at home, to consciously work hard. Next, it's still about moving to the level of intuition. For example, you've worked for a long time, or you've spent a lot of time on something. Then you start to apply this knowledge in your life. So, in your everyday life, you just stop yourself there, somewhere it's necessary. That's all. I like this way, but what way? Do you like feeling doomed by a congenital condition, or do you feel that stuttering is an acquired skill that you can and should get rid of step by step and in a measured way? And you need to get rid of it step by step, gradually and systematically.